This is Tim Freeman.
And this is Big MF.
With the Inside BJJ EBI 9 Light Heavyweight Breakdown.
This EBI was action-packed with a grand total of 12 submissions, 7 coming in regulation and 5 coming in overtime rounds.
The first fight of the night featured the returning champion, Gary the Lion Killer Tonin, against Jimmy Friedrich. Jimmy is a standout from Atos Jiu-Jitsu. He has a fantastic leg lock game, and the question for this match was, can Jimmy fend off Gary's leg attacks and possibly come up with one of his own? Jimmy sat down immediately when the match started, and Gary slowly lulled Jimmy into the saddle-like position and finished with a heel hook. We saw Gary start to employ a variety of attacks, a lot of upper body attacks, almost in a way to confuse Jimmy and maybe make him think less about protecting his legs. He hit a very similar position to the saddle and finished with a heel hook.
It just goes to show you, Tim, whether you're from Atos, whether you're from 10th Planet, whether you're from the Gracie Academy, it does not matter. Everybody else is an amateur at leg locks, and the Danaher Death Squad guys are professionals, and they're on another level. Gary Tonin is an absolute monster. He did what he was supposed to do. He won the match like a shark. He set it up, he hit it, and it should be no surprise to anybody because really, Jimmy was in way over his head. I give him a round of applause. It was a great effort, but it wasn't good enough.
The second match featured Adam the Red Destroyer Saknov against Rodrigo Antunes. Look, Adam came out as a young lion against Rodrigo the old lion, and Adam displayed positional dominance over Rodrigo, really giving him some massive shoulder pressure for long periods of time in this fight. The fight went to the overtime, from which Adam hit a beautiful rear naked choke in the top of the first. Antunes almost came back with an armbar of his own, but he wasn't quite fresh enough to hit it. I think that Adam wore him down through the course of the match, and the young lion ate the old.
Adam Saknov basically used his jiu-jitsu. He got going, he used pressure, he used dominance, and he basically beat Rodrigo down. He wore him out, like you said, and he got the submission. Adam came in and he destroyed. It was a great performance. It was a great first match. Hats off to Adam, the Red Destroyer. He looked phenomenal.
Third match featured the Beast Daniel O'Brien against Gibson Saw. This was a very interesting match because Gibson has a illustrious but mysterious background in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, with his father being a red belt grandmaster who learned from a family outside of the Gracies in Brazil, which is not very common. It's actually quite rare. It was really nice to see him on the match. Daniel O'Brien employed a drunken jiu-jitsu style a la Henry Akins. He was very fluid and very much not tense in this match. He was very loose. He was very comfortable. We saw Gibson jump guard immediately, almost into like a koala style guard. Daniel again didn't panic. Gibson went to a single X option from his closed guard. He tried to set up a leg attack, but we saw Bryan quickly counter, hit a leg lock of his own, finish the match with a heel hook.
Daniel O'Brien is an absolute beast. He's a monster. He's big, he's tall, he's super flexible, he has good cardio, and he goes out there and he attacks. It doesn't matter that Gibson came from a lineage of a red belt master. What mattered was you were facing a monster. The techniques that he displayed were not at that level to beat a Daniel O'Brien. He needs to go back to the drawing board. He needs to regroup, change his game, and come back stronger.
One of the things Eddie said about Daniel is that he brought him into EBI because he was terrorizing the South. Now he's terrorizing the West. We're going to see a lot of good things out of Daniel to come. The last match on the left side of the bracket featured 10th Planet Purple Belt Kyle Bame against Travis Moore. I had this match wrong. I thought Travis Moore was going to come out, hit Bame with a triangle attack, that Bame was going to be in over his head, and that he was going to wilt under the pressure. Exactly the opposite happened. Kyle came out, jumped into a very nice early Kimura attack, put Travis on the run. Kyle ended up finishing Travis with a rear naked choke early on in the match. Hats off to this kid. He looked fantastic, man.
Tim, I would say more than just one half. I'd say 2 hats off. Let's not forget, this kid, Kyle Bame, submitted his way to win his spot at the Gracie Worlds, to get his spot at EBI. This kid is only a purple belt. He had a very dominant performance, a great palm-to-palm choke. We're going to see a lot more of this guy. He is an absolute stud. He's a blue chipper, and he's probably, I'd say, the rookie of the year.
The right side of the bracket started off with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu standout Vinny Magalhães against UK MMA star Tom Breeze. One thing that stood out to me in this match was that Tom was being coached by John Danaher, and at the moment I thought, man, anybody who's got Danaher in his corner definitely has an advantage. Vinny was calm. It didn't shake him. He didn't trip at all. He immediately jumped into guard, hit a beautiful flower sweep, transitioned to the mount. A lot of pressure on Breeze. Breeze kind of got off to a slow start in this match, although he did pick up the pace. He did start to employ some attacks of his own, but he got into the leg lock game, and when you get into the leg lock game with Vinny, you have to be willing to go deep, because Vinny's going to take you deep, and if you can't swim in the deep waters, he's going to drown you, and that's exactly what he did. Vinny counter leg attack, and he got the tap out of Tom Breeze.
You know, Tom Breeze may have drawn the toughest name in the first round of the division. Vinny is an absolute stud. He is phenomenal at jiu-jitsu. He's been doing jiu-jitsu for the longest time. Him and Gary Tonin, I said it going in, were the two odds-on favorite to win this whole thing. You know, I don't want to keep on saying I'm not surprised when it comes to Vinny, but I am not surprised one bit that Vinny hits the heel hook. I am almost surprised he didn't even hit it sooner.
The next matchup featured Elliot Kelly versus Jason Flynn. This had to be the most passive-aggressive jiu-jitsu match I've watched in a long time. Elliot has a very aggressive style stand-up. He ended up getting a couple headbutts on Jason. Jason looked at referee, kind of gave him the look like, hey, what's up? He didn't get anything back, so he laid down. Not once, not twice, not 3 times. I counted 5 times where Jason laid down and voluntarily gave up his back or side control to Elliot Kelly. That's something that you just don't see. It's not a great idea. I think he got frustrated.
Tim, I do not know what Jason Flynn was thinking. It was a horrible idea and a horrible strategy to lay down like that and give position to an absolute phenomenal beast like Elliot Kelly. Yes, I know you got headbutted, but this is a combat sport. You look to the ref once. If he doesn't do anything, you defend yourself. If anything, headbutt the motherfucker back. Don't lay down there and give this man position out of frustration. You cannot hit a submission when you're side mounted. You can't win that way. In my opinion, Jason Flynn gave this match to Elliot Kelly, and Elliot Kelly wins via submission in overtime.
Elliot Kelly wore him down with those attacks because Jason gave him the position. What we did see was Elliot took the match into overtime and hit a beautiful twister submission. The crowd went crazy. It was my favorite match of the night.
It was my favorite submission of the night, and it is also a submission and a match that probably will go down in EBI history for Elliot Kelly.
The next match featured 2 guys that are new to EBI. We saw Matt Kirkwhelm and Ryan Walsh. Look, I'm going to be straight up with you. I didn't know a lot about Matt. I tried to find tape on the guy. I tried to find information on the guy. There just wasn't much out there. We know a lot about Ryan Walsh. He's a Kyotera standout. Those guys are always prepared, and they're always ready. I picked Ryan to win, but boy was I wrong. Matt came out and positionally did a fantastic job in this match. Ryan proved himself to be worthy to be up on that stage. He was able to answer every attack that Matt had, but Matt just kept attacking. Matt got stronger through the match and stronger, and I felt like Ryan got a little bit tired towards the end and just didn't have an answer at that time for Matt's attacks. Matt took it via escape time.
You know, Tim, you're correct. We did not know who Matt Kirkland was before, but we definitely know who he is now. He came into this thing with that Dan Henderson wrestling-style base jiu-jitsu, and he beat Ryan Walsh, the Kyotera standout, and he basically came in there and wore him down, and he grinded him out like you would probably expect a Dan Henderson grappler to do. It was somewhat shocking, but after watching him perform, and if I would have seen him perform before, I wouldn't have been so shocked.
Yeah, he did a real nice job. I'm sure we're going to hear big things from both those guys in the future. The right side of the bracket was rounded out with Daniel the Raspberry Ape Strauss going up against Quentin Rosenweig. Look, this match went pretty much like we thought it was going to go. Daniel just simply is too big, he's too strong, and he's too powerful in this position against a guy like Quentin Rosenweig. It's not saying anything bad about Quentin. It's saying a lot of great things about Daniel. We saw Daniel finish with a very fundamental key lock Americana tiles type attack. He got the tap early on, had a real nice victory, and I don't think he was surprised. I don't think anyone was surprised, but he did a real nice job.
Daniel Strauss was never really in any trouble. He was stronger, he was faster, he was better, and he was just too much for Quentin to handle. Daniel Strauss won this match, hands down. He was never in any trouble. He used his jiu-jitsu, he used his strength, he used his power, and he came in there and he destroyed Quentin. There was never a moment, there was never any doubt, there was never a time in this match, not even for 1 second, where I thought Quentin was getting any kind of upper hand. When Daniel Strauss is not tired and his cardio's not coming into play, he is an absolute monster and almost impossible to beat.
One of the toughest guys to finish, I agree with you. The quarterfinals were led off with Gary the Lion Killer Tonin against Adam the Red Destroyer Saknov. Look, Adam did a real nice job with his wrestling. He employed some single leg attacks, and he did a pretty good job at avoiding Gary's kind of bread and butter type attacks, but this is Gary Tonin we're talking about. It was transitional attack after transitional attack, and eventually he found the honey hole from which he hit the heel hook.
Gary Tonin is basically a shark, and Adam Saknov is basically a goldfish in this match. I don't mean that as a knock on Adam. He had a great night. He had a great win over Rodrigo, but you are swimming with a shark in deep, deep, deep waters. Adam is just not quite at that level with Gary Tonin, and he really didn't have that much of a chance. Gary's just too good. He's too sharp. His heel hooks are phenomenal. His transitions are phenomenal, and he's always hunting and looking for the submission and looking for the finish. Adam will be back. Adam's great. Adam's tough, but that night was all Gary Tonin.
The second match in the quarterfinals featured Daniel O'Brien against Kyle Bain. Daniel O'Brien came out very strong, as well did Kyle Bain. Look, I didn't know what to expect. We saw O'Brien employ the drunken jiu-jitsu style again. We saw Kyle Bain come out with his attacks. It was a back and forth match. These guys were all over each other. You honestly couldn't tell who was going to win this match. Eventually, O'Brien pulled it off with a sick armbar in overtime. Bain did not have an answer, and O'Brien advanced in bracket.
As we've said before, and we'll say it again, and we will probably say it many, many, many more times, Daniel O'Brien is an absolute monster. Kyle Bain is relatively new to the EBI scene. He won his way into EBI, and he did a phenomenal job against Travis Moore. But Daniel O'Brien is a tall order to beat. He's big, he's strong, he's got crazy submissions, and he basically destroys people. Hats off to Kyle. He did a great job, but it just wasn't quite good enough.
On the right side of the bracket in the quarterfinals, we saw Vinny Magalish go up against Elliot Kelly. I felt like Elliot employed a very smart, strategic type game, not allowing Vinny to tangle him up, not allowing Vinny to get in on his legs, basically kind of staying on the outside. But when these guys went to overtime and Elliot had to give up the spiderweb position to Vinny, it was all Vinny, and it was fast. Elliot did not have an answer, and as much as I like Elliot, and as much as I picked Elliot to make it to the finals, Matt, I gotta say hats off to you. You were right about Vinny. There was no way Elliot was beating Vinny that night.
You know, Tim, you are correct. I was right. Vinny Magalish, like I said before, and I'll say again, is one of the best top 5 guys in the world. Elliot Kelly proved who he was. He proved how good he was. And really, this was a very, very entertaining match. My second most favorite match of the night was Vinny Magalish and Elliot Kelly. You know, if you're talking EBI rules and you have to pick a spot where Vinny's going to be able to take your arm or Vinny's going to be able to take your back, he is probably one of the worst guys next to Marcelo Garcia to start out that way. And if your name is not Gary Tonin and Vinny gets you in overtime, you are dead meat.
The last match in the quarterfinals featured Matt Kirk-Welm against Daniel Strauss. I thought Daniel was going to come out and overwhelm Matt right out of the gate, much like he did in the first round against Quentin Rosenweig. But Matt was able to dig deep, to display some of that gritty Dan Henderson-style grappling and survive Daniel's attacks. And we saw Daniel start to take a few more deep breaths. He started to sweat a little bit more, and eventually Daniel started to get tired. Matt started to get energized. This match went into the OT with Matt finishing Daniel with a beautiful, tight rear naked choke. Daniel wasn't getting out. Daniel knew it. The look on his face told the story when he tapped to Matt in overtime.
You know, you're probably never going to see Matt Kirkland get like heel hooks or get crazy submissions. He's a Dan Henderson style grappler. He's going to grapple with you. He's going to survive. He's going to get out of things. He's going to wear you down. He's going to grind you out. Daniel Strauss started out dominant. He started out tough. It looked like it was going to be another typical Daniel Strauss performance, but you could see there was a certain part of this match where the tide started changing and Daniel Strauss started getting tired. He got submitted by the RNC, but really, he got submitted to cardio. Matt Kirkland outworked him and out-cardioed him and got the rear naked choke.
The semifinals featured Gary the Lion Killer Tonin against the absolute beast, Daniel O'Brien. This was a great match. Gary gives up 2 feet to Daniel in height, 60 pounds in weight, inches and inches in reach. Daniel's huge compared to Gary, but Gary put his all-around jiu-jitsu grappling style on display and really proved why he deserves to be the champion in EBI. He used all of the aspects of his jiu-jitsu, his escapes, his transitions, his attacks, everything he had to survive Daniel O'Brien. He beat Daniel O'Brien on escape time and overtime, which is, for the size differential we're talking about, is nothing to be ashamed of. Even though Gary certainly wanted the $5,000 extra for a submission, I know that he's happy with getting that escape time win against Daniel O'Brien.
Once again, Gary Tonin proves why he is the best pound-for-pound grappler, submission only, on the planet. He has a tough match with a monster in Daniel O'Brien. And Daniel O'Brien has absolutely nothing to be ashamed of himself. He took the best guy the distance and only lost by the fastest escape. Eddie Bravo's happy. He didn't have to write a check for this one, but the fans are happy because they got a very entertaining match. And Daniel O'Brien, you will be back. Gary Tonin, once again, you prove why you're the best. Size does not matter. You always find a way to win.
The next semifinal match featured Vinny Magalish against Matt Kirkwhelm. Look, I really felt like this was a matter of Matt just really laying it out on the line his first 2 previous matches. Vinny came in, was able to slap on the triangle, and then hit the Kimura from the triangle. Matt just didn't have an answer at this point. I felt like he was exhausted. I felt like he was mentally tired. He was physically tired, and Vinny was putting the attacks on, and Matt just didn't have an answer. I don't think at that point of the night there's any way Matt is going to beat Vinny.
Tim, I'm going to take this a step farther. Even if he wasn't exhausted, even if he was completely fresh, yes, Matt Kirkland had a hell of a night. He had great matches, and he did better than any one of us ever expected him to do. But he is not a Vinny Magalish. Under no circumstances do I think that Matt Kirkland could ever beat Vinny Magalish in any type of jiu-jitsu match. Vinny is one of the best grapplers on the planet, maybe the best grappler on the planet. Vinny is a stud. His technique is too good to get beat by a wrestler.
The finals featured Gary the Lion Killer Tonin against Vinny Magalish. Matt, I gotta say, these are the 2 men that you picked. I had picked Gary and Elliot Kelly. You picked Gary and Vinny. Both guys make it to the finals. The audience was ready and anticipating a brilliant match, and they were not let down. Gary Tonin proved once again why he really is the best all-around grappler in EBI right now. The guy uses defense. The guy uses offense. He uses standing attacks, seated attacks, leg locks, Kimura attempts, guillotines, flying attacks. Everything that Vinny had, Gary had an answer for, even into overtime. Look, you don't survive when you give Vinny your back. You don't survive when you give Vinny the spiderweb position, but Gary found a way to survive with beautiful arm lock escapes, beautiful escapes in general. Vinny could not get it done on time, and once again, Gary Tonin displays and proves why he deserves to be the champion in EBI.
I completely agree with you on that, Tim. Let's not forget that also this was supposed to be Gordon Ryan. Gary Tonin took this match on a short notice and was prepared for all of Vinny's attacks. It was as if Gary Tonin had been training for Vinny Magalhaes, even though he wasn't even supposed to be on this card. But let's talk about something else here, Tim, and I noticed this. The power of the Gary Tonin mustache is strong. This mustache is getting thicker. It's getting stronger. We're starting to see handlebars now. And I'm going to say this. If he continues with his mustache, this mustache may become as powerful as the mustache of Chuck Norris. I know that sounds surprising, and I know that may shock some people, but that's how good Gary Tonin is. And Gary Tonin is good without that stash, but with that porn stash, I think he might be unstoppable.
This really was Gary Tonin's coming out party. He displayed everything that he has, and he proved once again why he deserves to be the champion of EBI. One of the things I really liked about EBI 9 was we had the opportunity to see a lot of young grapplers, a lot of new grapplers really put it out there, really kind of get past the nervous jitters that they may have had in the past and really do their best. Guys like Adam Sacknoff, Daniel O'Brien, Kyle Beam, Elliot Kelly, Matt Kirkwhelm. These guys really made a splash in EBI. They really got their name out there. It was a pleasure to watch those guys compete, but none of them had an answer for Gary Tonin. Gary Tonin reigned supreme.
Gary Tonin, Vinny Magalhaes had one of the most entertaining matches I've ever seen at EBI. It was great. They entertained the fans. Pretty much all of these matches were entertaining. I never got bored. This may be the best EBI event that I have ever watched.
On behalf of Big MF, this is Tim Freeman, and this has been the EBI 9 Breakdown. Please check out the Inside BJJ podcast on iTunes or your favorite mobile app. Go to www.insidebjj.com.